LoveLore Library. Chapter 1270, The Regretful Mu Ling 4. However, just as the sword was about to pierce into her body, a light flashed past, cutting off her entire arm. It was so painful that she shrieked until her voice went hoarse, almost losing consciousness. You have hurt Sui for so many years and have almost caused old Master Mu to die. If you wish to die, I'm afraid that it will not be this easy. The corner of Feng Ruqing's lips curled up into a faint curve. However, you do not have to worry. I will not hand you over to Mu Ling because, she paused. He does not have the right to punish you. Indeed, Mu Ling wished to vent all his hatred and anger on Qin Qinyan, but she would not give him such a chance. He needed to carry all these grudges and live out this life. At this moment, Mu Ling's anger had yet to subside. However, Mu Huan's death did allow him to somewhat recover his rationale. However, listening to Feng Ruqing's words, a hint of conflicted emotions flashed in his eyes. In the end, he still did not make any move at all. Mother, get Elder Lei Yun to come over and bring Qin Qinyan to Fengyun Manor. A hint of a smile appeared in Feng Ruqing's eyes. I think. This time, the Divine Herbs sect would not be such a busybody and snatch away someone from my hands. Also, get Elder Lei Yun to send the Divine Herbs sect a letter as well. Soon, I will pay them a visit. She explicitly said paying a visit, but no matter how Nailan Yen interpreted it, she felt that Feng Ruqing was going to go there to cause trouble. Oh, also, Feng Ruqing stroked her chin with a half-hearted smile as she looked at Qin Qinyan who had crumbled to the ground. You don't have to be too worried. I am very respectful of the dead. I will not be like Mu Ling to want to cut up your son into 1,000 pieces. Qin Qinyan raised her eyelids slightly, as she looked at Feng Ruqing weakly. Why was it that she did not believe Feng Ruqing would be so kind to actually let off her pitiful son? Old Master Mu, if I brought Mu Zai's corpse to feed the wolves, I don't think you would feel heartbroken, right? Feng Ruqing raised her head and looked at Old Master Mu with a smile. When Mu Shi was born, Old Master Mu had already become muddle-headed and so, he never really had much interaction with Mu Shi. However, Mu Shi was still his grandson. However, he also knew that Mu Shi was as selfish and as ruthless as Qin Qinyan. He had caused quite a bit of harm to many women from good families in his life. His end today was also befitting of his sins. Therefore, Old Master Mu sighed lightly in the end. I do not have much of an opinion of you feeding him to the wolves. I just hope that he will be born in a good family in his next life and not to such a mother who would teach a good child to be wrong. Me for extra chapters. As a child, Mu Ling and Qin Qinyan's blood was flowing in his body. Naturally, he also had some of the character flaws his parents possessed. However, all children are born blank slates. Even if he had the blood of these two people, things would not have necessarily ended this way if he was brought up properly. Take Nan Xian for example. He was also Mu Ling's seed, but he did not have the least bit of Mu Ling's selfishness and foolishness. This was all due to Sui's good teachings. Don't. Qin Qinyan's body trembled badly. She used all her strength to climb back up and leaped before Feng Ruqing. You said that you were very respectful to the dead. How could you treat my son like this? I beg you to let him off. Feng Ruqing lowered her gaze with a smile on her face. Indeed, I respect the corpse because I rear quite a number of spirit beasts and these spirit beasts' feces could be used as fertilizer in the future and make the spirit herbs grow faster. See. I am even allowing him to contribute to this world even after his death. Shouldn't you be thanking me? Chapter 1271, The Regretful Mu Ling v. Qing'er. Feng Tianyu looked at Qin Qinyan who was kneeling before Feng Ruqing in indifference before looking at Feng Ruqing with a warm gaze. Just leave this matter to me. At this moment, Chen Qingyan felt her body going soft as she almost passed out. She bit her lower lip hard in order to keep herself awake. She did not understand. How could the human heart be so ruthless? Chen Qingyan did not have the chance to beg as she was dragged away by old Master Mu's people. They also dragged away Mu Shi and Mu Huan's corpses. Their departure finally brought back peace and silence to the street. Father, Mother, I still need to make a trip to the chief manor. It was so difficult for Chainer to return, both of you need to take care of him well. All these years, Chainer had suffered too much in the Qin family. The moment she thought about those scenes, her heart felt pain. However, she had something more important to do at the moment. Chainer, we had just gathered together not long ago and previously, there were still other people causing a racket. Why are you leaving so soon? Feng Tianyu's handsome face looked a little ugly. Are you going to see that stupid boy, Nanxian? Feng Ruking's face darkened. Imperial father, you called other people a stupid boy in front of his mother and grandfather. Is that really a good idea? Nailin Yan nudged Feng Tianyu. Even if you are dissatisfied that your daughter is being taken away, you can't scold Nan Xian in front of other people. We are here to discuss their engagement. If you are angry, you could express your dissatisfaction behind their backs. After all, nobody would know. Feng Ruqing, Sui, and old Master Mu were rendered speechless. Even Mu Ling, who had long been forgotten on the sideline, was also speechless. Cough, cough. In the end, old Master Mu lightly coughed twice and broke the awkward silence. In the future, we are all a family. If there is anything Nan Xian does not do well, as his parents-in-law, whenever there is a need to scold him, just scold him. If there is a need to beat him, just beat him. There is no need to be courteous. As a man, his skin is very tough. There are some things that he needs to bear on his own. As a man, he had to endure beatings and withstand scolding. He had to carry this family's burdens on his shoulders. The bloody light in Mu Ling's eyes had dispersed and he raised his head to look at old Master Mu. So, this was the reason the old master had beaten him up since young. At least when the old master's head was still clear, he would also beat up Mu Qingyin, not caring the least bit about Mu Qingjian's body. Could it be that he had always felt that men could endure beatings? Even the corner of Suyi's lips could not help but turn down. Me for extra chapters. Yes, this was indeed Nan Xian's grandfather. Biological grandfather. She sighed as she lit a candle for Nan Xian in her heart. Then, she gently held Feng Ruking's hand. Qinger, don't worry. Your wedding matters can be decided when he returns. In the future, if he bullies you, I will bring you far away. There is no need to be bothered about him. White Phoenix flapped its wings as it looked at her in anticipation. Sui, what about me? Oh, Sui's expression remained indifferent. You can follow Nan Xian and live together and soar together. White Phoenix was left speechless. It just wanted to be Nan Xian's father. It did not wish to live and soar with him. Sui, a voice full of grief called out to Sui. The last bit of smile on Sui's face disappeared. Her back faced Mu Ling, not saying a single word. I know you hate Chen Qingyan. I hate her too. However, I can give her to you and you can deal with her however you like. He wished he could personally end Chen Qingyan. However, this time, he was willing to let Sui deal with Chen Qingyan. All right. Sui remained indifferent. She sounded weary, obviously not wanting to say anything more to him. Chapter 1272, The Regretful Mu Ling 6. Sui, Mu Ling's voice contained suppressed pain. I did not know these matters. I really did not know that you were the one who had saved me back then. I also did not know that Chen Qingyan had done so many wrong things. Could you forgive me? Taking into consideration Old Master and Nanxian. It was not hard to hear his nervousness through his voice, fearful that Sui would reject him. Even White Phoenix's heart was violently guarded as he glared at Mu Ling. This scum actually dares to ask Sui to forgive him. It is impossible that Sui would forgive him. Absolutely impossible. Although it thought so in its heart, White Phoenix still looked at Sui somewhat nervously, awaiting her reply. I got it. Sui remained calm and elegant. For Old Master Mu's sake, I will not be calculative with you. Then. Sui, however, even though I can forgive you for abandoning me and forgive your betrayal, I cannot forgive you for trying to harm my grandchildren. Mu Ling was a little stunned. I did not. Furthermore, I do not think we have any grandchildren. Sui calmly turned around and looked at Mu Ling coldly. Do you want me to remind you? She approached Mu Ling. You sent people to Lu Yun Kingdom and wanted to poison Qing'er, intending to render her infertile. If it were not because Qing'er is so strong, and the people you had hired had their own agenda and had used the poison on someone else, I would never ever hear anyone calling me grandmother with Nanxian's attitude of only wanting Qing'er in this life. Suddenly, everyone glared at Mu Ling fiercely. Old Master Mu was so angry that he pointed at Mu Ling. Mu Ling, you are an animal reared by a bitch. Get lost, get out of the Mu family. The old housekeeper nearby was trying to calm the old master down. Old Master, you can scold if you want to, but do not scold Our Lady. Are you not afraid that Our Lady would crawl out from hell and fight with you? Old Master was so angry that he had gotten muddled. He had actually scolded Mu Ling, saying that he was brought up by a bitch. Was that not scolding his own wife who had passed away? Hee hee. Feng Tianyu sneered. It seems like the state preceptor's father is not only stupid, but even his heart is black. Nobody can simply destroy my, Feng Tianyu's, daughter to such an extent. Today, I want the Mu family to give me an explanation. Otherwise, my daughter will not get married. Coincidentally, there was an excuse. He could keep his daughter for a few more years. At least, he could prevent the state preceptor from taking his daughter away so easily. The moment Feng Tianyu thought about how the state preceptor was staying in Lu Yun Kingdom for so many years with impure intentions, his heart felt uncomfortable. Me for extra chapters. He even thought that the state preceptor was a good person and had been so respectful toward him. He had never expected that he would take his baby daughter away. Nailin Yan did not say a word as she pursed her lips lightly, obviously agreeing with Feng Tianyu's words. Qin Chen subconsciously took 2 steps forward as his cold eyes locked onto Mu Ling. What do you mean not marry? Qing'er definitely needs to marry Nanxian, Sui said calmly. I am not someone from the Mu family. Nanxian and I are not related to Mu Ling in any way. Besides, Nanxian and I have nowhere to go. So, why don't I stay at Lu Yun Kingdom's imperial palace? At least I'll have my in-law, Nailin Yan, as a companion. Originally, Old Master Mu was a little anxious when he heard Feng Tianyu's words. As to why it was just a little. It was because he had thought that Sui would be in the same boat. However, now that he had heard that Sui was not willing to stay at the Mu family, the old master panicked completely. No, all of you are not allowed to leave. Who allowed all of you to leave? Nanxian and Shao Qing are the Mu family's people. I have just kicked Mu Ling out of the family clan. Old Master Mu glared angrily at Mu Ling. Why are you still not leaving? You just have to affect your so. Tui, could it be that you want to affect Nanxian's happiness? Get lost. Get lost. Get lost. Chapter 1273, A Lifetime of Pain. Mu Ling was left speechless. At this moment, he really had the feeling of being betrayed by everyone and abandoned by all his relatives. However, all these were the consequences of his own choices and he could not blame it on anyone else. Father, who is your father? Get lost. I don't have such a son like you. Go as far as you can, do not obstruct our family from a happy gathering. He said it as if Mu Ling was not part of his family. Mu Ling's facial expression turned very ugly. He felt as if there were needles on his back. His whole body felt uncomfortable. However, he understood that once he left, he would not have a chance to return again. Therefore, under the watchful gaze of the crowd, Mu Ling's knees slowly bent and finally landed on the ground. With a thud, his knees seemed to also knock into everyone's heart. Father, I was wrong. I beg you, considering the fact that I was being kept in the dark by Qin Qingyan, forgive me this once. Mu Ling's tears were streaming down his face as he looked like he was in great pain. Even his voice had an uncontrollable trembling. It was the first time old Master Mu had witnessed Mu Ling in such a state. He looked at him as he sighed gently. You do not need to say sorry to me. The ones you should be sorry to are Sui and Nan Xian, the mother and son pair, as well as the little girl, Xiao Qing. You have never done anything wrong to me. To forgive you or not is not in my hands. You yourself had made such a mistake. Then, you need to have the courage to face it and not just blindly admit your mistakes to me. Which part exactly is it of Xiao Qing that is not good? Why do you keep insisting on finding other women for Nan Xian? And you even use dirty tricks to render her infertile. Old Master Mu became more and more upset as he spoke. The longer Mu Ling lived, the more foolish he was becoming. He was actually being kept in the dark by Qin Qingyan to such an extent. Mu Ling slowly closed his eyes as his handsome face went pale. It was as if he had lost all his strength in that instant. After quite some time, he finally opened his eyes and looked at Sui. So many times, he could not help but wish that things could be the same as they were in the past, holding her hands and telling her about his revenge. Each time, Sui would comfort him seriously. Even though his father had always said that he was incapable, Sui believed that he could take care of the Mu family well. Me for extra chapters. In order to make his father more assured of leaving the Mu family to him, Sui had helped him to manage the Mu family. During the years when she was around, the Mu family were always expanding and was doing well. The spirit herb storage had also never suffered losses. Now, when he retrospect on everything, Sui had really helped him too much. However, what did he do? He had actually personally chased away the woman who loved him the most. I'm sorry, the corner of Mu Ling's lips trembled as he clenched his fists tightly. Only by doing so could he muster the courage to face Sui. I will spend the rest of my life to make it up to you. Sui smiled indifferently. There is no need. I have already let go of all the things of the past. Now, you only own Nan Xian and Qing'er. However, Qing'er does not have the time to be too calculative with you now. She has other more important things to do. When Mu Ling knelt in front of old Master Mu, Feng Ruqing had already quietly left. To her, it was more important to look for Nan Xian now. Naturally, she was not bothered by Mu Ling, who was unimportant to her. Mu Ling's eyelids dropped to hide the sadness in his eyes. Perhaps from the moment he had decided to tear apart Nan Xian and Feng Ruqing, Sui had decided to never forgive him. Feng Ruqing had long left quietly. The other people naturally did not pay any attention to Mu Ling. Feng Tianyu and Nailan Yan took the lead to walk into Mu residence. Taking into consideration old Master Mu, they did not deal with Mu Ling otherwise. With Feng Tianyu's temper, Mu Ling would have long been cut into 1,000 pieces. Of course, to Mu Ling, staying alive was definitely more painful to him than being dead. However, he did not have the courage to kill himself. Chapter 1274, a lifetime of pain too. As such, they just let him live to carry the guilt for the rest of his life. Let him carry the pain of being abandoned by his wife and child, as well as being betrayed by everyone and all his relatives leaving him. In Tianshan Manor, everything was silent and peaceful. Especially in the Luo family, it was quiet and felt different from the usual. The current master of the Luo family had his arms circled around a beautiful concubine as he drank and talked happily with other people. He did not know of the Qin family's destruction and was only feeling happy being promoted to the Luo family's master. Just at this moment. Thud. The door of the Luo family was kicked open. The sound was very loud, scaring Luo Xiang so much that the wine cup in his hand had almost dropped to the ground. He was a little annoyed when he looked up. Who is it that coming to seek death again? In the next moment, all the noise around quietened. The wine cup in his hand instantly slipped to the floor and shattered into pieces. Cold sweat was dripping from his forehead. Even his back was drenched. The beads of sweat stuck to his skin. At the moment, he could not be bothered about anything else. He quickly pushed the beautiful concubine in his hand away and immediately stood up. He was clearly frightened. Moss. Master. How come you have returned? Standing at the door was, surprisingly, Luo Fei, who had been rescued by Gu Shi. It was also because Luo Fei had been rescued that Feng Ruqing did not protect Luo Li and had brought her back. The Luo family's matters should naturally be solved by Luo Fei himself. As such, when Luo Fei's injuries had more or less recovered, he brought Luo Li and the old lady back to the Luo family. Luo Li pursed her lips from the beginning to the end as the little fox cuddled in her arms. However, the gaze she used to look at Luo Xiang was full of anger. Why? Luo Fei sneered. Are you very disappointed that I did not die in the Qin family? More sweat started to pour down Luo Xiang's forehead. He raised his hand to wipe off the sweat, but no matter how he wiped, he was unable to wipe his sweat away. And the rest of you? Luo Fei glanced coldly at the group of Luo family's people who were drinking and enjoying themselves in the hall. Back then, I had treated all of you genuinely, but the moment something happened to me, all of you bullied my mother and my daughter, and have even beat up my daughter to such an extent. Whenever he saw the frightening scars on Luo Li's arms, the anger in Luo Fei's heart was sufficient to swallow these people whole. All these were his Luo family's people. They were people he had nurtured single-handedly, people who existed to protect the Luo family. Me for extra chapters. Now, he was only just taken away by Qin Li, but they already felt that he had already met his end and had actually treated his lyre like that. He could not imagine if Maiden Feng had not returned. What would have awaited lyre? Moss, master. You have misunderstood. I was only, Luo Xiang's lips were trembling and his face was pale. However, he was still unable to say a single word in the end. Misunderstood. What did he misunderstand? He had indeed chased out Luo Li and old madam. Similarly, the wounds on Luo Li were his doing. Luo Fei was not a fool. He would not believe him without a doubt just because of a few words. Wait. Suddenly, Luo Xiang seemed to have thought of something as he suddenly raised his head and glared at Luo Fei. Was he not taken away by the Qin family? Then, how did he manage to return? All of you are keen to know how my son is able to return. The old lady saw through Luo Xiang's thinking at a glance and she said slowly, it is because Qin Li is already taken away by the manor master. The Qin family is no more. Qin Fei is also missing. All of you have tried to climb up to power by relying on the Qin family and have chased us, grandparent and grandchild, out of the house by force. Now, it seems like karma is biting back, retribution is here. She would never forget how she, an old lady who was so close to stepping into her grave, was chased out of the Luo family humiliatingly. Chapter 1275, A Lifetime of Pain 3. Now, she had returned together with Luo Fei to personally witness these people, who had been personally groomed by her husband and son, pay the price of their selfishness. Luo Fei, I want this group of people to leave the Luo family. Luo Xiang's face changed as panic flashed in his eyes. Old lady, back then it was Qin Li who had forced me to do so. I know my mistake, I really know my mistake. I beg you, don't kick me out. The reclusive world was different from the secular world. In the secular world, if one were to be kicked out of the family clan, there was always another path for them. However, in the reclusive world, it was not the same. The reclusive world was incredibly dangerous. Unless one had strong powers, otherwise, without a family clan protecting and supporting them, surviving would be incredibly difficult. Furthermore, Luo Fei was one of Gu Shi's men. However, he had stood on Qin Li's side in this battle. In the whole reclusive world, besides the Divine Herbs sect and Deity's Gate, these kinds of powers, there were no other people who would accept him. Furthermore, perhaps in order to obtain the favor of Tianshan Manor, this group of people would presumptuously humiliate and harm them. As for the Divine Herbs sect and Deity's Gate, to these powers, he had no innate talent and he was no longer young. How would they possibly accept him? Luo Fei, give them a good beating and kick them out. Old Lady Luo's face was solemn. I do not wish to see them leave in pristine condition. If they do not leave behind a little something, they cannot leave at all. Grandmother, Luo Li said while staring angrily at Luo Xiang, the others can be beaten and kicked out of the family clan, and we should also tell the whole world that if anyone dares to accept these traitors, they are making us, the Luo family, their enemies. As well as enemies of Shao Qing. When she had left the chief manor, she had met Feng Ruqing who was there to meet Gu Shi. Shao Qing had told her that she could do whatever she wanted without worry as she would back her up. Yes, this feeling of being protected by others was really good. Therefore, Luo Li had presumptuously used Feng Ruqing's name. Those people were not afraid of the Luo family, but they would be afraid of Shao Qing, right? They should blame her for being narrow-minded. Women have always been quite petty. She did not wish for these traitors to live well. Me for extra chapters. However, Luo Xiang had almost killed my little fox. He cannot leave just after a beating. He has to be beaten until he is half dead with only a breath away from death. Then, throw him out and let him live or die on his own. If he is lucky, perhaps he would survive. If he is unlucky, then he can't blame it on others. Her little fox was also lucky that Feng Ruqing had so coincidentally returned. If it were not so, she and little fox would most likely be separated by life and death by now. The moment she thought about it, Luo Li felt her heart clenching in pain. She had really almost lost her little fox forever. Therefore, she needed to repay a tooth with a tooth. How Luo Xiang had treated her little fox, she would treat him in the same way. Hearing Luo Li's words, Luo Xiang's body went limp as he crumbled to the ground. He understood that he was really done for this time. In the chief manor. On top of the back mountain. Gu Shi sat in a daze on the fake rock mountain. His gaze was still on the barrier, unable to move his eyes away. He had only regained his sense a little when he heard footsteps from behind him. He turned around to look at the person approaching him. Seeing the young maiden who was approaching him, he forced the corner of his lips into a smile. Maiden Feng, I have waited for you for a long time, all right. Feng Ruqing slowly walked to Gu Shi. I know I exited with your assistance. However, Gu Yi and Nan Xian did not follow me out. Do you have any way to let me enter once again? I will find a way to bring them out. Chapter 1276, Destroying Fangzhou Mainland. Unless they exit on their own, otherwise, it would be a little difficult. If Maiden Feng wishes to re-enter, it would also not be so easy. Gu Shi laughed bitterly as he shook his head. He looked on straight ahead as his eyes contained worry. Originally he had thought that Yi would also be following her back. However, in the end, he was still unable to see her. Maiden Feng, the barrier on the outside has been destroyed, but the barrier on the inside has the ability to auto-regenerate. That was to say, Feng Ruqing had destroyed the barrier to leave, but once she left Fangzhou mainland, the barrier would naturally be regenerated. It might even be that Fangzhou mainland thought that its own barrier was not strong enough and had become even tougher so that it would be more difficult to break again. If Yi wished to return, it would be even more difficult than before. Feng Ruqing raised her brow as she asked calmly, then, what if we were to make Fangzhou mainland disappear? Gu Shi's heart trembled as he looked at her in astonishment. What did you just say? If Fangzhou mainland completely disappears, will they return? She would not forget that Nan Xian was still dealing with a strong savage beast at the moment. Only when she had thoroughly destroyed Fangzhou mainland could Nan Xian return. Otherwise, she was afraid that even Nan Xian would find it difficult to leave the barrier area. You want to destroy Fangzhou mainland? Gu Shi stared at Feng Ruqing. Do you know what you are saying? Feng Ruqing sneered. Why can't I destroy it? Fangzhou mainland is not even supposed to exist in this world. If I destroy it, not only is Nan Xian able to return, even those spirit beasts would be able to escape that world. Gu Shi's heart shook strongly. He was only able to slowly regain his senses after a while. Fangzhou mainland was created by a strong cultivator back then. She had put everyone who had offended her back then in Fangzhou mainland and ordered the spirit beasts to volunteer to go to Fangzhou mainland and suppress those criminals. Maiden Feng, it is not that I am looking down on you, but to destroy the place that person has left behind is really too difficult. In this current world, I'm afraid that not many people would be able to do so. Feng Ruqing had managed to leave Fangzhou mainland because he was helping her from the outside. Not to mention destroying Fangzhou mainland. Gu Shi was not looking down on Feng Ruqing. It was merely a fact that this matter was a little too unbelievable. Regardless of how much he believed in Feng Ruqing's abilities and cultivation, he could not believe that she could do this. Feng Ruqing slowly walked in the direction of the back mountain. The things I could not do inside does not mean that I cannot do them when I am out here. Since one has to go through the chief manor to enter Fangzhou mainland, then it proves that the heart of the array is definitely hidden in the chief manor. Perhaps it is somehow related to the chief manor. Every space was created with an array. Of course, one also needed to have sufficient cultivation to open up space. Then, why was it that in order to reach Fangzhou mainland, one had to come to the chief manor? Me for extra chapters. She did not believe that these two matters were unrelated. Therefore, Feng Ruqing paused. I do not need to destroy Fangzhou mainland, I just need to destroy this back mountain. Astonishment could be seen in Gu Shi's eyes. Feng Ruqing's words were too logical. Why was it that throughout this whole year, he had never thought of this? Instead, he was standing guard, blindly waiting for them to exit on their own. Strong spiritual qi started to gather into a storm surrounding Feng Ruqing, like a hurricane. Her red clothes flapped in the wind, beautiful and magnificent. Chapter 1277, Destroying Fangzhou Mainland to Fangzhou Mainland. Forbidden Mountain. The gale was blowing like a storm. Nan Xian was fully dressed in white, handsome like an immortal. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his lips, but his gaze remained indifferent. Even when he was facing such a fierce and violent savage beast, his white shirt was still floating in the wind and not a speck of dust could be seen. The savage beast let out a fierce roar as it instantly rushed toward Nan Xian. Its teeth were incisive and its claws were also razor-sharp. Like a sharp sword flashing, it flashed toward Nan Xian. At the same time, compared to the dangerous Forbidden Mountain, Tianyue Kingdom was much quieter. Perhaps it was because the wolfhound had saved the human child back then. The people of Tianyue Kingdom did not fear the spirit beasts but rather became friendlier toward them. Indeed, their ancestors had done wrong, but it did not mean that the descendants of those ancestors would make the same mistakes. Back then, they had blindly believed the rumors of the imperial family left behind. That was why they had hated the spirit beasts. However, when they interacted with the spirit beasts, they realized that they were actually so cute. With Feng Ruking's hand in this, the wolfhound had broken through to become a Tier 7 spirit beast. It had ultimate power in Tianyue Kingdom. However, although the word wolfhound still had the word wolf in it, it was still very different from an actual wolf. Wolves are proud and elegant. But dogs can never change their inherent slaving nature. It would never put itself first and look down on humans. It would never forget the person who had taken it in, even though it was still chased out in the end. In a small town outside the imperial city, a group of children was squatting by the ground, playing with mud. Their bodies were dirty and even their clothes were a little torn and worn. Little Doggy stood nearby, looking at these children. Finally, its gaze landed on a somewhat familiar little face. Compared to the children who had dirt on their faces, this little male doll was comparatively much cleaner. Actually, it also did not know why it had returned. Perhaps it was just not resigned. Not resigned that it had been abandoned, and even more so thought that they had abandoned him because they had no choice. However, me for extra chapters. Seeing the little male doll's tattered and dirty clothes playing with the mud on the ground, little Doggy was a little confused. Its eyes also looked lost. Even if it was dirty, it was still cleaner than the mud. Why did the master's wife complain that it was dirty and chased it out but let him play with the mud? Little Doggy did not say a word but quietly stood by the side. From the beginning to the end, its gaze never left the little male doll. The moment it returned to its hometown, it could recognize him at a glance. After all, he looked very much alike to his previous master when he was young and it had followed its previous master since young. Naturally, his looks were carved in his mind. As for why he was considered a previous master, it was because he already had Feng Ruking now. It was just not resigned in its heart, so it had decided to return to its hometown. Let it take another look at the people who it had never forgotten. The little boy seemed to be in an argument with his fellow playmates. He stumbled and fell to the ground when he was pushed by his fellow playmates as tears started to flow down his cheeks. When the wolfhound saw this scene, a hint of anger flashed in its eyes. Its body became a flash of lightning as it instantly dashed over. Just as the fellow playmates were about to hit the little boy again, it let out a low warning growl. Those kids were suddenly scared. With the wolfhound's growl, they were so scared that they fell onto their butts and started crying before turning around and running away. Little dog. The little boy had already stopped crying. He raised his little head and looked at the wolfhound unblinkingly. Chapter 1278, Destroying Fangzhou Mainland 3. The wolfhound was larger than the little boy and it needed to lower its head to see him. Dogs are naturally gentle toward children. What more a wolfhound who was already a domesticated spirit beast? However, the wolfhound did not speak, fearful that it would scare him. It used its head to wipe the little boy's tears as if silently comforting him. Indeed, the little boy stopped crying and started to laugh, using his small hands to pat the wolfhound's head. However, just as the wolfhound was about to help the little boy up, a hateful voice spoke from behind. Where did this dog come from? Stay further away from my grandchild. This voice could not be more familiar to the wolfhound. Its big body also stiffened as it turned its head around to look, somewhat stunned. It saw an old woman running over with a broom in her hands as she angrily shouted, "Quickly get lost. Otherwise, I will beat you to death today." After the old woman had finished speaking, she lowered her head to look at the little boy and picked him up from the ground. "You want to bring back a stray again? These dogs are too dirty. Keeping dogs will cause diseases. That year when I was pregnant with your father, I had forced your grandfather to kick his dog out. I will definitely not allow any dog into my house, in case we contract any diseases." But the big doggy protected me. The little boy was a little reluctant. "These kind of things are too dirty. If you dare to bring it back, I will beat it to death." Back then, I had also said the same thing to your grandfather. That is why he had kicked that dog out back then. Could it be that you wish to follow your grandfather's path? The old woman scolded angrily. The wolfhound looked at the old woman, stunned. Then, it looked at the little boy who was in her arms. Oh, it turned out he was not his previous master's son, but rather, his grandson. That was possible too, it had already been so many years. His children would have already gotten married and had their own children. However, its previous master's wife still looked at it with hatred, just like in the past. Could it be that it was even dirtier than mud? The wolfhound was a little perplexed by human thinking. It also did not bother to think more as it shook its head and turned around to leave. This time it had come back just to take a look at these people and also wished to thoroughly bid farewell to its past. After it saw these, it suddenly understood. Now, it had friends, a master, and the many people who liked it in Tianhui Kingdom. It was no longer a lonely stray dog. Me for extra chapters. That's enough. Why are you being calculative with a child? An old man walked out from behind her, frowning. The moment he raised his head, he saw the wolfhound's back. His pupils suddenly contracted. Ah Huang. Alike. Too alike to his Ah Huang. Even that black patch of fur on its butt was exactly the same as Ah Huang's. What Ah Huang? It has already been more than 20 years. Ah Huang has long been in the ground. The old lady sneered. It is just a dog. Do you need to think of it for over 20 years? Even every dog that looks like it. You shut up, the old man shouted in rage. If it was not for you scaring my mother, saying Ah Huang was too dirty and would affect our child, would my mother have forced me to chase away Ah Huang? You have even threatened me that you would find a chance to beat Ah Huang to death when I am not around. If it were not for you too, I would not have chased it away back then. Everything I said is the truth. You do not even bother to take a look at how dirty dogs are. If my grandchild got sick because of it, what will we do? It is just a dog. Could it be that it is not even as important as a person in your heart? The old man was so angry that he could not even speak. The wolfhound did not turn back. Even though the person behind it was someone it had missed for a long time. Chapter 1279, Sky falling, earth cracking. The ground suddenly started to tremble. It was as if the surface of the ground was moving and the mountains were shaking. The sky was falling and the earth was cracking. Together with the shrill sharp screaming, it was so ear-piercing. The old woman stumbled and the little boy in her hands rolled out of her arms. She had just climbed back up when she saw that an old tree by the roadside was falling, inclining toward the little boy. At that moment, the old woman's eye rims were red as she shouted loudly, "My grandson." The little boy's eyes were a little blurred. He did not know how to escape as he looked at the tree that was falling toward him in a daze. The old woman almost lost her consciousness. Her whole body was trembling. However, the little boy had rolled quite a distance away, and with their strength as two old people, it was entirely impossible for them to be able to rush over in time. She could only watch the old tree falling toward the little boy. Just at this moment, a gale swept past them from the side. When the old woman and old man raised their heads to see, they saw a yellow light like a flash of lightning, rushing toward the little boy at high speed. It used its warm embrace to protect the little boy. Thud! The old tree was falling toward the wolfhound, but before it had managed to smash down, it was split into two by the wolfhound's spiritual power. The tree fell to the ground in two halves. The old woman was stunned. She stared at the wolfhound who had rushed to protect the little boy in its embrace in a daze. A surge of shame rose from her heart, rendering her speechless for a long time. The old man looked at the wolfhound at a loss. After a while, he finally opened his mouth to ask, "Are you Huang?" The wolfhound did not speak. It put down the little boy from its embrace. From the beginning to the end, it did not once turn to look at the old man. It turned around and planned to return to the imperial city. Big doggy. The little boy held on to the wolfhound's paw with tears gathering in his eyes. "Don't leave me for extra chapters." The wolfhound looked at the little boy. Perhaps it was because the boy looked innocent and somewhat ignorant, it recalled the happy days during its childhood, so its gaze had also softened quite a bit. It used its paw to pat the little boy's head but still left determinedly. After all, the moment it had left this family back then, it no longer belonged to this place. Not to mention, now, it already had a new master. Huang, the old man looked at the leaving wolfhound whilst shaking. He stumbled as his eyes were glistening with tears. "Where are you going, Huang? Back then, when you left the house, where did you go? I could not find you all this while." Back then, after he had kicked out Huang, he regretted his decision and wanted to bring it back. However, he had searched in many places and asked many people, but he was still unable to find it. He had originally thought that their fate had thus ended. He never thought that he could see it again in this lifetime. The wolfhound stopped in its tracks for a moment before continuing to walk toward the exit of the small town. At this moment, the ground was still shaking. Even the sky had traces of crumbling and cracking. A troop of Tianhua Kingdom soldiers walked over and stood before the wolfhound, respectfully saying, "Lord Hound, we have finally found you. Now that Fangzhou mainland is undergoing changes, we would like to invite Lord Hound to go to the manor of the town head to take shelter." There was hearsay, a weird monster that swallowed the heavens and destroyed the earths had come to the Fangzhou mainland. Just now, the ground beneath the people's feet had disappeared. Even the people had disappeared along with it. The town head's manor should be considered a safer place. Lord Hound was the only Tier 7 spirit beast now. They had to ensure its safety. Chapter 1280, Sky Falling, Earth Cracking 2, alright, the wolfhound seemed to be out of it. Even its voice sounded a little weak. Perhaps it had thought of something as its footsteps halted, and with his back toward the old man who was chasing after him, he said, "I am not Huang. My name is Little Doggy." It had thoroughly let go of its past. From today onward, it only had one master. The old man stopped, not knowing when his old tears had already covered his whole old face. This time, he did not continue to pursue the wolfhound but quietly watched the soldiers lead it away as he raised his hand to wipe the corner of his eyes. It seems like Huang is living quite well. If so, he could also rest assured. The old woman looked around for a moment. "Old man, just now, Huang, did it open its mouth to speak?" And those soldiers seemed to be very respectful toward it. They were all Tianhua Kingdom's people. Not long ago, the old woman had heard that a Tier 7 wolfhound had entered the imperial city of Tianhua Kingdom and that the wolfhound could speak the human language. It had also received the respect of many people. If that wolfhound was a Huang, then it was enough to prove how a Huang could have lived for so many years. A spirit beast was different from an ordinary dog. As a spirit beast, it naturally could extend its lifespan. Ah, Huang is living a good life now, there is no need for us to disturb it. The old man let out a bitter laugh. Back then, they had decided to abandon it. Now, what right did they have to seek connections with it? He had lived this life carrying the guilt of letting it down. Now that he knew it was living a good life, he also felt a little better. Grandmother. The little boy felt the ground shaking and he was so scared that he hugged the old woman's thigh. Fear was as visible as the day in his eyes. However, this was merely the beginning. It was obviously just midday, but the sky had gradually turned dark. It was as if the world was coming to an end. The whole Fangzhou mainland was in a similar state. The sky was falling and the earth was cracking. Darkness enshrouded the whole place. At the Forbidden Hill, under the attack of the strong and fierce savage beast, Nan Xian took a few steps back. However, not a speck of dust could be seen on his robe and he looked as clean as he was in the beginning. However, just as the savage beast was about to leap forward, the ground beneath it suddenly trembled. All strength left its body as it fell to the ground with a thud. Seeing how lost the other people were, a hint of panic flashed in the savage beast's cruel eyes. Within the panic, there was also despair. Since it was forcefully locked away in Fangzhou mainland, its strength had already integrated with Fangzhou mainland. If Fangzhou mainland existed, then it would exist. If Fangzhou mainland vanished, then its strength would also be gone. However, why did it feel that Fangzhou mainland was slowly disappearing? Me for extra chapters. The Ninth Emperor. It was that death-deserving bastard again. This was definitely her work. Back then, all it did was destroy a city. That bastard had bound it here. Now, she was actually planning to annihilate it. The savage beast was so angry that its huge body was shaking. Yet, its gaze could no longer get fierce. It was like a languished little kitten on the ground, shaking and trembling. Nan Xian, Mu Qingyin slowly walked to Nan Xian's side. His gaze was cold. What is happening? Nan Xian raised his eyes as a faint smile appeared on his handsome face that looked like an immortal. So faint, so warm, like a gentle breeze. It should be Qing'er. Yes. Just get ready for a bit. We can finally return to Tianshan Manor. Rumble. The whole ground was swallowed by Nan Xian's words as all of them fell into a flash of darkness instantly. It was so dark, like there was no end to it. Chapter 1281, Tan Shuangshuang came knocking at Tianshan Manor. At the Mu residence's backyard. A young maiden was lounging on the soft couch as she rested her head in her hand. Her hair flowed like a waterfall, her clothes were red like fire. She was so beautiful that her looks could bring the whole city to its knees. She was unrivaled and magnificent. Xiao Qing. Old Master Mu stood by the side a little flustered. He was silent for a long while before finally opening his mouth to ask, I heard, you had enrooted the entire manor master's residence? He did not know what had happened. All he knew was that 2 days ago, Feng Ruqing had said that she was going to bring Nan Xian back. In the end, not knowing how she had actually leveled out the entire chief manor. Even the back mountain of the chief manor was blasted away. Yes. Feng Ruqing was sitting in a lazy position, as if she had no backbone, leaning against the soft couch. It was destroyed by me. The corners of the old Master Mu's lips twitched. He suddenly could not understand what kind of hatred did she and Gusher actually have that she would level out the whole chief manor. It left Gushir with no place to live and he was shamelessly staying at Mu residence. Did Gushir offend you? After thinking for half a day, old Master Mu could only think of this possibility. This little girl was one who would exact her revenge if one had enmity with her. It would definitely be that Gushir had offended her and in a fit of anger, she had destroyed the chief manor. Oh, Feng Ruqing said in disagreement. Originally I had only planned to destroy Gushir's back mountain, but I did not think that I would overuse my strength and accidentally destroy the whole chief manor, ACC. Accidentally? Exactly how accidentally did she manage to destroy the whole chief manor? Then, what about Nan Xian? Old Master Mu hesitated for a while before finally asking the question he desired the answer most to. Feng Ruqing raised her brow. He will find his way back. The back mountain was destroyed. Fangzhou mainland no longer existed. Once Fangzhou mainland vanished, Nan Xian and the rest would return to Cangyu mainland. However, once Fangzhou mainland was destroyed, they could only appear at a corner of Cangyu mainland. As to the exact location, she did not know. However, as long as Nan Xian and the rest were back on Cangyu mainland, they would naturally return on their own. That was why she was waiting for him at the Mu family. When old Master Mu heard Feng Ruqing's explanation, he sighed in relief. His old face was all smiling. Maiden Feng, when Nan Xian returns, we need to discuss your wedding. Me for extra chapters. All right. Feng Ruqing lazily stretched her waist. However, I am a little tired now, and a little hungry. Help me to get the kitchen to prepare some food for me. I will take a rest after eating. Perhaps these days were too exhausting, making her tired and hungry. Now that she was relaxed, she could barely bear with it. Old Master Mu looked at Feng Ruqing at a loss. You have just eaten a whole table of good food, 4 hours ago. Silence ensued. And after you finished eating, you fell asleep. You had just awoken. So, you are telling me you are drowsy and hungry again. This little girl, she was not that good at eating in the past. Silence once again ensued. Feng Ruqing was quiet for quite a while. It seemed like lately, she had indeed been very easily worn out and very easily got hungry. Perhaps I have used up too much of my energy in my previous battle. Old Master Mu was even more confused. Were you not only ordering around your pot, oh, and that other guy in the green robe called Wu Yu who had been taken in by you? How many times did you personally take action? You are telling me that you are too tired because of the battle. You are just too tired ordering your people around. Shao Qing, you can't have fallen sick, have you? Old Master Mu asked frowningly. Feng Ruqing shook her head lightly. No. If I had fallen sick, I would know. I am fine. Wait till I finish my food and sleep for a little while more. I'll be fine. Chapter 1282, Tan Shuangshuang came and knocking to old Master Mu felt relieved hearing Feng Ruqing say so. He did not say more and just left. When he had just walked out the room door, the old housekeeper had already come forward to meet him. Master, Tan Shuangshuang is here. What is she here for? Old Master Mu's face darkened slightly. He had never liked Tan Shuangshuang. He felt that she was a little fake, just like another Qin Yan. However, she had indeed given birth to a child for Mu Ling. He was also too lazy to say too much. However, a few days ago, Tan Shuangshuang had ran away when she saw that things were not looking good for the Mu family when Qinli brought people over to find fault with the Mu family. If she had just ran away, that was fine. However, she had left behind her child who had just reached a full year. To say it nicely, she would not be able to support this child after she leaves and thus left him to the Mu family. If that was just that case, then fine. However, before Tan Shuangshuang sneakily ran away, taking advantage of the Mu family's people trying to deal with Qinli and not being free to care about other matters, she had actually stolen the Mu family's silver and spirit herbs. Now, she actually dared to come back knocking. The corner of old Master Mu's lips curled up into a sneer as he said sarcastically. Mu Ling has already been chased out by me. What more a Tan Shuangshuang? Make her get lost. Our Mu family only needs Sui. All these sons were so worrying, not even comparable to Sui alone. However, the old housekeeper hesitated for a second. Tan Shuangshuang is crying and kicking a fuss outside. Would that not be a little not good? Why not? We secretly get rid of her and prevent her from causing a ruckus outside. Old Master Mu's expression turned even uglier. He really could not understand Mu Ling. Was Sui alone not sufficient? See the two concubines he brought back, which of them were easy to handle? All of them did not wish for his Mu family's harmony. Let's go. Bring me to see this Tan Shuangshuang. Ever since old Master Mu was clear-headed, he had always stayed in the courtyard and rarely came out. He had never interacted with Tan Shuangshuang. Today, he wanted to see how bad Mu Ling's judgment was. In reality, Chen Qinjian's matters could be blamed on Mu Ling, but regarding Tan Shuangshuang, Mu Ling was more innocent than anyone else. After all, he had never liked Tan Shuangshuang. If it were not because Sui had poisoned him, he would not have had any relations with her, and not mention bringing her back to the Mu family. Outside the Mu residence, a group of people had started to gather. Standing outside the door was a maiden who was crying miserably. Her face looked sad and her eyes were brimming with tears. Her pale face was very pity-inducing. Me for extra chapters. Just like a blooming white lotus. Pure and fake. Old Master Mu. When she saw old Master Mu walk out, Tan Shuangshuang's knees had slowly bent, knocking into the ground heavily as she wept silently. Old Master Mu looked down at the maiden who was kneeling before him as his face remained cold and indifferent. His emotions were not the least affected. Old Master Mu, I know that the young master had done wrong. You chased him out of the Mu family, but I had given birth to a child for the Mu family. My child cannot be motherless from young. I beg you, don't chase me away. Old Master Mu sneered. Back then, was it not you yourself who snuck away? Oh, and even stole my Mu family's things. If it were not that everyone in the Mu family were trying to find a strategy to deal with the situation, and that even Elder Zhang at the spirit herb storage was also the same, how could she have successfully stolen from them? The people who had originally sympathized with Tan Shuangshuang were stunned when they heard old Master Mu's words. Stolen the Mu family's things. Was that not thievery? This maiden looked quite beautiful and was so pitiful. How come it turns out that she was a thief? Chapter 1283, We are old acquaintances. Tan Shuangshuang froze. She clenched her fists tightly. She could not understand. After all, she had given this old man a grandchild. Why did the old man make things difficult for her in front of so many people? If she was shamed, was that not also throwing the Mu family's reputation away? Old master, I just wish to see my child. My child is still so young. Can you bear to let him live without a mother from such a young age? Tan Shuangshuang spoke with great sincerity as her tears glistened in her eyes, portraying the desire of a mother wishing to stay with her child. She was sure that a family clan such as the Mu family would definitely not let the child live outside. As long as her child was still at the Mu family would not chase her out. Indeed, after the people present heard Tan Shuangshuang's words, they felt that her desire to be with her child was not wrong. Her only wrongdoing was that she should not have stolen the Mu family's property and left the residence. Old master, I will not compromise the position of the young lady in the Mu family. Tan Shuangshuang's gaze was full of sincere pleading. I just wish to watch my child grow up. I guarantee that I will not be like Chen Qingyan, causing all kinds of trouble. I beg you, let me stay. Please. Besides staying with the child, I have no other requests. From the beginning to the end, old Master Mu wore a dark face. He looked at Tan Shuangshuang coldly. The man before her did not show the benevolence he had when he was facing Feng Ruqing and Sui. Even his gaze was chilling. Tan Shuangshuang bit the bottom of her lip hard as she clenched her fists tightly. Seeing the old master's hard gaze, she felt a little suffocated. However, she understood that she needed to persist. Only by doing so could she have a life of luxury and riches by relying on the Mu family. If she knew that the Mu family could overcome the difficulties this time, she would not have run away back then. Perhaps if she had not run away, old Master Mu would have seen her in a different light, and might even have pampered her like he pampered Sui. Just as Tan Shuangshuang was thinking all kinds of nonsense, a familiar voice suddenly spoke from inside Mu residence. It was so familiar that her body could not help but stiffen. You speak as if you could affect Sui if you entered the Mu family. A slender figure walked out from the manor. The young lattice hair was fluttering in the wind and she looked extremely beautiful. The corners of her lips were lifted slightly as her half-hearted smile turned and stopped at Tan Shuangshuang. Shao Qing, why have you come out? Old Master Mu saw Feng Ruqing coming out from the door and frowned. His voice was full of love. Did you not say that you were weary and drowsy? You should rest well. How is it that you need to manage these matters? Which blind person has informed you of this? I will go and break her legs later on. Feng Ruqing looked at Tan Shuangshuang indifferently. Tan Shuangshuang and I could be considered old acquaintances. Since she has come to our doorstep, I cannot pretend not to see it either. Seeing Feng Ruqing's familiar face, Tan Shuangshuang's heart clenched in pain. Me for extra chapters. She could not understand. Why was it that they were both women but the heavens seemed to care about Feng Ruqing so much more? Firstly, Feng Ruqing had a father who loved her deeply. She was also a princess and had even managed to obtain the fancy of the state preceptor. If that was all of it, then it was fine. Who would have thought that the state preceptor would actually be someone from the Mu family of the reclusive world? She had originally thought that with the Mu family's identity, they would not be able to accept Feng Ruqing. It was indeed so, Mu Ling and Chen Qingyan did not like her. However, the young lady and the master of the Mu family pampered her and loved her, putting her in the palm of their hands. She refused to resign. She refused to resign to the fact that all the good things belonged to Feng Ruqing. Chapter 1284. We are old acquaintances too. Clearly, she was more outstanding than Feng Ruqing. Was it not? In the past when they were in Lu Yun Kingdom, everyone liked her and snubbed Feng Ruqing. When did it all begin, that everything changed? Yes, it was after Feng Ruqing was divorced by her husband and had knocked herself to death. After that, she became incredibly dazzling, stealing away the limelight that should have been hers, and even stealing away the heart of the man she loved. When Tan Shuangshuang thought about the various things of the past, her expression was so twisted and her whole body trembled uncontrollably. Old Master Mu acted like he did not see her as he looked at Feng Ruqing instead. Oh. Why did I not know that you two were old acquaintances? That is because her father was an official of my father in the past. Oh, that's right. Old master, you should check first if her child is related to Mu Ling. After all, she had been with other people before. Russell. Tan Shuangshuang's face turned snow white. Her body trembled as she looked at Feng Ruqing in anger. Feng Ruqing, I know that you are envious that Lu Yuchen had liked me and that he had divorced you back then. However, you cannot simply accuse me. My child is naturally the blood and flesh of the Mu family. Divorced. This word was extremely sensitive. Everyone turned to look at Feng Ruqing and the rest in surprise. Tan Shuangshuang was previously with someone else. Was she attempting to taint the blood of the Mu family? The maiden loved by the Mu family's young master Nan Xian was also married before. Old Master Mu's expression turned ugly. What is going on? Tan Shuangshuang saw the old master's darkened expression and felt a jolt of happiness in her heart. She looked at Feng Ruqing rather viciously. You won't allow me to live well. So, I won't let you off too. That day, Tan Shuangshuang had hidden away after escaping and did not return. Furthermore, on the day of the battle, only the family clans who were present knew what had happened. However, those people were already taken away by Gu Shi, so the truth was not widely known. Me for extra chapters. Therefore, nobody knew clearly that the Mu family was able to overcome the threat they were facing because of Feng Ruqing. The current Tan Shuangshuang still insisted on her thinking that Feng Ruqing was just the same as her. That she was a woman who had to rely on other people to survive. Old master, I guess you don't know. Back then, Feng Ruqing was promised to another and was even married for a while. Her ex-husband was Lu Yuchen. However, Lu Yuchen disdained her for being fat, so he pursued me. However, Feng Ruqing held this vengeance against me, targeting me at every possible chance. In reality, I had never thought of fighting with her for a man. It was Lu Yuchen's own wishful thinking. Tan Shuangshuang paused a moment before continuing. I indeed frequented the Lu family, but I went there to see Lady Lu. It was not related to Lu Yuchen. Feng Ruqing thought that I was trying to get close to Lu Yuchen and had ordered people to beat me up. She was also extremely unfilial. In order to stop Lu Yuchen from taking in a concubine, she had angered her mother-in-law to the point that she fainted. Lu Yuchen was a filial son, so he divorced her for his mother. As Tan Shuangshuang was telling the story, she looked at Feng Ruqing once again as the cruelty in her eyes increased. This was Feng Ruqing's own undoing. If she had not brought up the past and slandered her for attempting to taint the blood of the Mu family, she would not have brought up her past like this. Seeing the old master's expression becoming increasingly ugly, Tan Shuangshuang spoke again. Old master, if such a person is to be allowed to stay in the Mu family, there will definitely not be peace. I think the young lady also does not wish to have such a daughter-in-law in order to prevent her from fainting out of anger. After all, she has done such things before. The whole street was silenced by Tan Shuangshuang's words. Chapter 1285. We are old acquaintances. Old Master Mu's face was so dark that it was a little scary. Even the people who were standing around him could feel the cold, dark aura. Feng Ruqing did not say a single word from the beginning to the end. You said that person is called Lu Yuchen. After a while, the old master's old, deep voice spoke. Tan Shuangshuang felt a jolt of happiness in her heart as she nodded and said, That's right. It is Lu Yuchen from Luyun Kingdom. All right, old Master Mu said coldly. Old housekeeper, take 1,000 taels of silver and give it to Lu Yuchen of the Lu family. Tan Shuangshuang was a little stunned as she looked at the old master in confusion. The old housekeeper was also at a loss. Master, go and thank him. Xiao Qing is such a good maiden. We have to thank him for divorcing her. Otherwise, where would our family's grandchild have an opportunity? I guess 1,000 taels might not be enough. Go and prepare 2,000 taels. We need to thank them. Tan Shuangshuang's expression changed. Why were the reality and her predictions a little different? Should old Master Mu kick Feng Ruqing out? A woman who has been married before, why does the Mu family not disdain her? As if not seeing Tan Shuangshuang's expression, Old Master Mu wore a serious expression as he continued, "Housekeeper, go and check if Tan Shuangshuang's child is related to the Lu family. Since Xiao Qing has already said so, then it should not be wrong. You also said that you frequented the Lu family. I do not care if you were there for Lady Lu or Lu Yuchen. You are definitely related to the Lu family in some way. If I find out that somebody tries to wrong my Mu family..." Hee hee, Tan Shuangshuang's legs went soft and she almost crumbled to the ground. She and Chancellor Lu, no, the previous Chancellor's matters were widely known in Luyun Kingdom. If Old Master Mu went to investigate, then everything would be exposed. Even if the child was really Mu Ling's, the old man might not believe it either. In that moment, Tan Shuangshuang finally understood what it meant to pick up a brick and drop it onto her own foot. Cold sweat was dripping down her back, drenching her spine. "Old Master, me for extra chapters." She wanted to defend herself, but a cold, elegant voice rang from inside the manor, like a cold wind that blew past, so cold that she shuddered. "Qing'er has always been a filial child. It is just that some people were disrespectful just because they were older. Considering that they were seniors, they tried to suppress her and had thus disrespected her." Sui slowly walked out of the door. Her expression was indifferent. Too bad, she did not see what identity she had. "My family's Qing'er is a princess." Such a foolish old lady had actually wanted her to show filial piety. How ridiculous. If it were me, I would definitely have given her a good beating. It could be seen that my family's Qing'er was still merciful to that old lady. Next to Sui were Feng Tianyu and his wife. Originally, Tan Shuangshuang was already feeling cold. Her heart was shaking when she saw Feng Tianyu and his wife walking out together. She was so frightened that she had almost lost consciousness. Why did no one tell her that His Majesty and the Empress would be at such a place? "Your Ma." "Majesty." "Empress," Tan Shuangshuang was quivering. Feng Tianyu clasped his hands his back. His gaze was fierce and sharp like a knife. "Lu Yuchen disdained the fact that my daughter was a 250-pound beauty, leaving her to keep watch over an empty room for so many days. It was only by luck that the state preceptor Nan Xian is wise and has been loving her since she still weighed 250 pounds. What are you? How dare you slander my daughter here?" Feng Ruqing, who was originally supposed to be happy, suddenly felt ripples in her heart. Can you guys not mention the words 250? Was her reputation not important? Chapter 1286, We are old acquaintances, for Sui disapproved of what he had just said. You don't have to keep mentioning alone in an empty room repeatedly just to let us know that she is not married to Lu Yuchen. This matter will taint Qing'er's reputation. Besides, I am not overly pedantic. As long as Nan Xian likes her, I'll love her too. Feng Ruqing was speechless. She was about to cry. Initially, no one would have noticed the words "alone in an empty room," but you've just brought them up again. Are you afraid that people won't know about it? Did no one really care about her reputation? One angry voice could be heard among the crowd on the street. In my opinion, Lu Yuchen has bad taste in women. Maiden Feng is so perfect, why should he divorce her and leave Maiden Feng alone in an empty room for such a long time? The words "alone in an empty room" deeply pierced Feng Ruqing nerves. When she looked up, she saw that the one who was talking in the crowd was someone that she knew. Zhuge Jia of the Zhuge family. It seemed like she was already fine. She was sold to a brothel, but unharmed due to her timely rescue. Otherwise, Zhuge Jia would not have recovered so quickly. Fortunately, not many people knew about this, so she did not suffer any deeper injuries. Initially, it should have been a happy moment for her, but all good feelings suddenly disappeared when Feng Ruqing heard what Zhuge Jia had said. Yes, yes, another girl continued, Maiden Fong is so nice and strong. If I were a man, I would still like her even if she's 250 pounds. Mu Ling once even wanted me to be Nan Xian's concubine. I once thought of accepting it, but I didn't after seeing that Maiden Fong had already known about it. They are in love and perfect for each other. No one can break them apart. The women trying to seduce Nan Xian are all sluts. It is as if they've never seen a man before. Maiden Fong is such a great woman, and the ones who have left her alone are scum. But hasn't Master Nan Xian been leaving Maiden Fong alone too? Otherwise, why hasn't she gotten pregnant yet? If Master Nan Xian does not leave her alone, then there must be something wrong with him. Fong Ruqing was speechless. Please, can you guys stop saying this? Did they ever think about her reputation? Fong Ruqing suddenly realized that she had been often feeling sleepy and hungry lately. Me for extra chapters. Could it be that? She frowned and shook her head. Impossible. It was only that one time in Haitian Kingdom that. Did Nan Xian probably make it? No, it was impossible. She was just overthinking it. At this moment, Tan Shuangshuang's face was already dark, and her eyes were fierce. She had not been here long, but she knew how famous Nan Xian was in Tianshan Manor. But should they not be insanely jealous of Fong Ruqing? Why were they still fangirling over her? These women. They were crazy. Both were women. What would they get from admiring her? With connections and status that one had, one could easily break them up. Fong Ruqing was not good enough for Nan Xian. Ahem, Fong Ruqing cleared her throat and hurriedly interrupted them as she saw that those girls were going to continue their arguments. Enough, there's no need to talk about the past. Old master, let's check first whether that child is the Mu family's or not. Otherwise, we will send that child back to the Lu family. Chapter 1287, Tan Shuangshuang was beaten up by. After hearing her words, the old master Mu hesitated for a moment before turning to her, expressionlessly. You mean, Tan Shuangshuang's child really belongs to Lu Yuchen? She had brought someone else's child to his Mu family and treated the Mu family like a fool? No, Fong Ruqing said indifferently. It was only then that the old master Mu was quietly relieved. They were in front of a large crowd, after all. If others knew that his Mu family was being treated like a fool and his son was already happy to be a father, then all of his family's reputation would be lost. However, whether Tan Shuangshuang had fooled the Mu family or not, there was no way he would let her set foot in the Mu family. She and Lu Yuchen are innocent. Both of them were once in love but didn't get together. As for her child, Fong Ruqing paused for a moment. The child belonged to Lu Yuchen's father. Tan Shuangshuang had just gotten up from the ground when she coldly heard Fong Ruqing's words. Her feet trembled as she almost fell back to the ground. Then, she steadied her footing and rushed toward Fong Ruqing in anger. Fong Ruqing, what exactly have I, Tan Shuangshuang, done to offend you to the point where you want to harm me like this? Why are you everywhere? In Luyun Kingdom and even when you come to Tianshan Manor. Do you envy me for living a good life? Fong Ruqing had already snatched Lu Yuchen from her. It was so hard for Tan Shuangshuang to find a good place here, and now she was going to destroy it too. Why did Fong Ruqing have to brutalize her like this? Before Tan Shuangshuang was able to reach Fong Ruqing, Fong Ruqing had stretched out her leg and kicked Tan Shuangshuang's body fiercely, sending her flying out of the way. She rolled a few times and landed among the crowd helplessly. Her small face turned pale, was soaked with tears. If this had happened in the former Luyun Kingdom, Fong Ruqing would have definitely been criticized by these people who saw her accusing Tan Shuangshuang. But now, Tan Shuangshuang did not see any feeling of pity or anger toward Feng Ruqing in these people's eyes. Everyone subconsciously stepped out of the way, leaving her alone on the ground. Me for extra chapters. Feng Ruqing walked toward Tan Shuangshuang and stopped in front of her. She looked down at her condescendingly. You said I harmed you, did I? Force you to sleep with Lu Yuchen's father? Tan Shuangshuang trembled. It's your fault. I would not become like this if you didn't take away my father's position. And if you hadn't demonized me in front of Lu Yuchen and caused him to misunderstand me, I wouldn't have been forced by Chancellor Lu to commit myself to him. Feng Ruqing suddenly laughed out loud. What a burden to bear. It was the first time she had seen someone sacrificing themselves and making such a moralistic statement. Your father is forcing my father to punish me only because he is the Grand Tutor. But he has forgotten that my father is the Emperor, and he is just a minister. Feng Ruqing stepped hard on Tan Shuangshuang's chest. Tan Shuangshuang, you've never thought of your own accusations. Lu Yuchen and I have long parted ways, but both of you had always bothered me. If you haven't reminded me of your existence repeatedly, what are you to me? Tan Shuangshuang raised her pale face and shook her head hard. No. That's not true. Obviously, it was Feng Ruqing's fault. She was the one who lusted after and had deliberately seduced Lu Yuchen, and then she had dumped Lu Yuchen after she saw that Master Nan Xian was better. Chapter 1288, Boy or Girl? Why was she the only one to be blamed in the end? Tan Shuangshuang, Nalin Yen looked at Tan Shuangshuang with a cold and expressionless gaze. Have you forgotten that you have slandered my daughter when we were in Luyun Kingdom back then? Qing'er is right. Who the hell are you guys? Nalin Yan's daughter doesn't need to stoop to beg for a man's mercy. Tan Shuangshuang bit her lower lip and said no more. She looked at the young girl who was being loved and protected by everyone. Thinking of how alone she was right now, Tan Shuangshuang's heart was dripping with blood, and jealousy almost drove her mad. She did not understand why the gap between her and Feng Ruqing was so wide. She was also a human. The ones that Feng Ruqing met were all people who loved her dearly. In comparison, the people she had ever met were just scum. So was Lu Yuchen, Chancellor Lu, and also Mu Ling. Why is God so unfair to me? Tan Shuangshuang's face was miserable as she took a few steps backward. She looked at the Mu family's yard that she could no longer step into, and finally chose to leave. At a time like this, if she did not leave, what else could she do? When the Mu family found out the truth about everything, they would kick her out anyway, right? She had just taken a few steps back when a stern voice suddenly came from behind her, making her tremble, forcing her to stop. So, you want to escape after insulting my daughter? Feng Tianyu had his hands behind his back. His face was cold and stern. Tan Shuangshuang. Qing'er is the ruler, and you are her people. You've humiliated her in public, shouldn't you be punished for this crime? It had been nearly 2 years since she had left Luyun Kingdom. These 2 years had made Tan Shuangshuang almost forget that she was still a citizen of Luyun Kingdom. As for Feng Ruqing, she was still a noble princess. Hearing these words from Feng Tianyu, Tan Shuangshuang stiffened and slowly turned around. Her voice trembled. Your Maj. Your Majesty, Master Mu. Feng Tianyu ignored Tan Shuangshuang and said, Today, I will borrow someone from your Mu family. Guards! Come and whip Tan Shuangshuang 100 times. After that, send her back to the Lu family along with her child. Tan Shuangshuang raised her head in fear. After leaving the Mu family, she had finally been able to stay with the other family in Tianshan Manor using her beauty. But would Feng Tianyu really kick her out of Tianshan Manor and send her back to the Lu family? Me for extra chapters. No. Absolutely not. Lady Lu would beat her to death. No, don't. Tan Shuang finally felt afraid and threw herself at Feng Tianyu's feet helplessly. Your Majesty, please don't send my daughter and me to the Lu family. Please, Lady Lu will kill me. Feng Tianyu looked down expressionlessly at Tan Shuang, kneeling at his feet. When you first provoked my daughter, did you ever think of the price you'd pay? Tan Shuang's body stiffened. She was so overwhelmed by jealousy that she did not carefully think about it until Feng Tianyu spoke. Now, she felt weak and fell onto the ground helplessly. If only she had been able to keep her mind calm and make the right decision, perhaps she would not have made such a stupid mistake. Unfortunately, there was no turning back for her, and her life would now be a tragedy. The men of the Mu family had already carried Tan Shuang away. A few moments later, her heart-wrenching screams echoed throughout the manor. Chapter 1289, Boy or Girl? No one among those who were present sympathized with her anymore. Feng Riching yawned once again, somewhat lazily. Father, Mother, I'm a little sleepy. I'll go and rest for a while. Call me when Nan Xian has come back. Si looked at Feng Riching with some concern. Qinger, have you been feeling a bit ill lately? You are always tired. And you're eating a little too much. Previously, Qinger had never eaten this much, so why had she changed so much recently? I'm fine. Feng Riching smiled. I'm just too tired lately, so I'll just rest for a while. She turned around after finishing speaking and slowly walked out to the Mu family's yard. Nailin Yen silently gazed at Feng Riching. She always felt that her daughter seemed to have changed a bit lately. And she could not tell what was happening to her. Old master, I have something to report. The old butler paused for a moment and said, Maiden Feng has been eating too much lately. We can't let her like this. The old master Mu glanced over and growled. What do you mean little Xiao Qing has been eating too much? Do you think my Mu family can't afford to feed a girl? Will the Mu family become poor if she eats a little too much? Old butler, I never thought you'd be such a cheapskate. The old butler was speechless. He looked at the old master Mu's angry old face and said carefully, but 2 days ago, Maiden Feng has eaten all the meals in the kitchen. I had to prepare the meals in a rush again so that the others don't starve. And yesterday, I had purposely prepared a meal for 2, but it didn't take long before Maiden Feng finished them. Oh, and today, she ate a whole cow. Old master, I'm not stingy. I'm worried that Maiden Feng might be sick, even a pregnant woman can't eat this much. The old master Mu was stunned. He only knew that her appetite had recently increased, but how could she have eaten so much? What if her body exploded? A cold light flashed in Feng Tianyu's eyes as he fiercely lifted his hand and picked up the old butler's lapels. What did you just say? Pregnant? How could his little girl be pregnant when she was still an innocent girl? What the hell did that bastard Nan Xian do to her? Me for extra chapters. The old butler trembled. I mean what if Maiden Feng got sick? Feng Tianyu gritted his teeth and said, next sentence. Oh, even a pregnant woman can't eat that much. The old butler's words caused Sui and Nailin Yen to look at each other. They recalled all Feng Riching's reaction in the past 2 days, and a possibility suddenly rose in their hearts. Sui's face was full of joy, but Nailin Yan's was cold. If Nan Xian were here, she would probably have chopped him into pieces. She had agreed to the engagement all because of her daughter. But that did not mean that she would let her daughter get married this soon. After all, there was a difference between getting engaged and getting married. Ahem. After seeing the reactions of Nailan Yen and Feng Tianyu, Sui hurriedly restrained the joy on her face and smiled elegantly. Let's confirm it first. Let's see if Qing'er is really pregnant, and if she is. If you agree to marry Qing'er to Nan Xian, I'll agree to send Nan Xian to you so you can drill him for a few days. 1. Chapter 1290, Boy or Girl? 3. Well, she hoped Nan Xian had a thicker skin, or else he might come back battered and bruised. Feng Tianyu sneered. If I find out what Nan Xian has done to my daughter, I'll break that bastard into a million pieces. He should be glad when I agreed to this marriage, but that kid is so daring to touch her first. Let's go see Qing'er. Without saying more, Nailan Yen turned back and walked inside Mu Manor. The old housekeeper was confused. He was just casually wondering out loud, why did these people make it seem as if Maiden Feng was really pregnant? Besides, he was clearly saying that even a pregnant woman could not eat this much. Master, this. Will it be all right? The old housekeeper was worried. The old master laughed. What are you worried about? Little Shao Qing will be fine. It's only Nan Xian. I hope he will not come back soon, at least until his in-laws have cooled down. Otherwise, he might just lose his life. The old housekeeper was startled, and he kept having a feeling that he had made a big mistake. Oh, the old master smiled sinisterly. Fortunately, I have given birth to 2 sons. If I had a daughter, I'm afraid I would be just like this couple. I'd fight anyone who dares touch my daughter. Every father with a daughter was prepared to fight to the death for their daughter's happiness and chastity. And so did he. The old master was suddenly a little sad as he turned to Sui. Sui and Mu Ling were no longer together, and her position in the Mu family was no different from being his daughter. If some brat abducted Sui, he would also fight that man to death. Lady Sui, master, what do you say? If Maiden Feng really was pregnant, would it be better to have a boy or a girl? The old housekeeper smiled and asked. Me for extra chapters. Sui smiled. I like girls, well-behaved and sensible, just like little Qing Han. Fu Chen is also well-behaved, but I will always prefer girls. If it turns out to be a boy, I'll probably just let him be like Nan Xian. I'll give him the freedom that he wants, and I won't miss him if he does not come home. The old butler was speechless. Why did he suddenly feel that Master Nan Xian was miserable as a child? His father was in love with the people who had hurt him, forcing him to leave the Mu family, and even his mother would not miss him. I'm not like you. The old master sighed. I loved that little girl, but as you said, you will not miss your son if he doesn't come back. With a girl, it is different. You always feel that something is missing when she leaves, like when you walked away from the Mu family back then. He paused and continued, having a boy, you may always dislike him, just like I dislike Shao Qingyin, but when he's going to be a son-in-law to someone, I don't have to worry about anything. Men are stronger, and it's okay for them to get beaten up. Girls are different. You'd worry about whether she'd meet scums in the future, whether she'd be willing to listen to you and leave that scum, whether she'd be bullied after getting married. You'd be worried about her and you'd be unable to sleep. There's so much to worry about a little girl. Like Feng Tianyu now. Maybe he was even thinking of killing Nan Xian. If his little girl wanted to marry and have children in the future, he would probably still feel the same. It was heartbreaking to think about it. Sui lowered her eyes and said after a moment of silence, it doesn't matter, I trust Qing'er and Nan Xian. Whoever dares to bully our little girl will risk their entire family being annihilated for sure. I don't believe anyone would dare to bully her. Chapter 1291, Boy or Girl? For if one were strong enough, one would have the power to stop everything. Anne. She met Mu Ling because no one taught her how to distinguish a good or bad person since she was a child. But she did not have to worry about her granddaughter as she would become as excellent as Nan Xian and Qing'er. The old butler looked at the old master Mu and Sui, and spoke in a nosy manner. Master, Lady Sui, Maiden Feng has not yet confirmed her pregnancy, but both of you are already arguing about this. Shut up. The old master Mu snapped. Sui also glanced at the old butler briefly. The old butler was shocked and quickly shut his mouth. Didn't you bring it up first? Sui's face was plain but elegant. Besides, whether or not Qing'er is pregnant now, she will be later. So, there's nothing wrong for us to discuss it now. The old butler was startled. It seemed that it was indeed he who had asked first. In the room, Feng Ruqing lazily leaned on the soft couch. She looked tired as she rested with her eyes half closed. Before she could rest any longer, a sound of footsteps came from outside the door. Feng Ruqing lazily lifted her eyes and looked at Feng Tianyu and his wife walking in through the door. Qing'er. Nalin Yan quickly stepped in front of Feng Ruqing. She was somewhat a little speechless, and her eyes were filled with worry. Feng Ruqing looked at her, confused. What's wrong? Qing'er, have you noticed that you've been eating a little too much lately? Oh, Feng Ruqing knew that, and she smiled. It's okay. I have a herbal dish that will control my size. I won't grow fat. That's not what I'm talking about. Nalin Yan hesitated for a moment, still unable to speak. Feng Tianyu could not wait any longer. He rushed toward Feng Ruqing and lifted her wrist. Qing'er, can you check your pulse to see if you're pregnant? Feng Ruqing was startled. She had learned how to check the pulse, although she rarely did it. However, after hearing what Feng Tianyu had just said, Feng Ruqing quickly placed her finger on her pulse point. She frowned, but no emotion could be seen on her face. Me for extra chapters. The whole room seemed very quiet, so quiet that only the sound of heartbeats could be heard. Feng Tianyu's face was very tense as he clenched his fists tightly, even his breathing was heavy. Feng Ruqing was dumbfounded for a few minutes before gradually coming back to her senses. What is it? Feng Tianyu asked nervously. Feng Ruqing slowly replied, well, it seems like I'm pregnant. No wonder her appetite had increased lately, and she was always sleepy. What do you mean? Oh, I'm pregnant. But she had only been with Nan Xian once and they had already gotten pregnant. Feng Tianyu was dumbstruck at her words. His entire body stiffened. It was as if he had taken a hit and he was so distressed that he could not even breathe. His daughter. His beloved girl. She had gotten pregnant before getting married. Damn Nan Xian. Feng Tianyu was going to kill him. He wanted to kill the bastard this time, and nothing could hold him back. Feng Tianyu was furious as his eyes were filled with fury. That brat Nan Xian. It'll break him into pieces. Feng Tianyu clenched his fists as he turned back to Feng Ruqing. Qing'er, is there anything you want to tell me now? Even if Feng Tianyu were angry, his tone would soften when facing Feng Ruqing. However, the anger under his eyes was not faded and enough to burn people out. Chapter 1292, Boy or Girl? Well, Feng Ruqing pouted as she lazily lay down on the soft couch. Nan Xian is quite powerful, quite powerful. Feng Tianyu was on fire and was about to explode with anger. Qing'er, tell father, was it Nan Xian who has abducted you? He must have seduced you when we weren't there. I'm going to kill that guy now. How dare he bullies my daughter and get her pregnant? Feng Ruqing turned to Feng Tianyu and said, "It wasn't Nan Xian who has seduced me." Feng Tianyu was even angrier when his precious daughter spoke for that bastard. Feng Ruqing paused and continued, "I was the one who took advantage of him." At that moment, all anger suddenly faded from his eyes. Feng Tianyu had initially thought that Nan Xian was using his beauty to seduce his daughter. After hearing what Feng Ruqing said, his body stiffened, and he looked at Feng Ruqing in disbelief. "What did you just say?" "I slept with Nan Xian." "Are you sure you're not just standing up for Nan Xian? Are you purposely defending him because you are afraid that I'd beat him?" "Why should I stand up for the state preceptor?" Feng Tianyu was speechless. He was so furious before. But now, somehow, he felt as if his punch was like hitting soft cotton, and he could no longer let out all of his rages. Especially when he saw the old master Nsui waking into the courtyard, his handsome face twitched a little as he said awkwardly, "That's an honor for that boy, Nan Xian." "Qing'er, you're back alone this time. Has Nan Xian escaped?" "I'll bring him back later. And you can do whatever you want." Nailin Yan was stunned as she stared at Feng Tianyu. His reaction. How could he be so different now? Previously, he had wanted to kill Nan Xian, but now, he wanted to bring him back to Qing'er. Men were really unreliable. "Tianyu, we are talking about Qing'er's pregnancy," Nailin Yan reminded him. "Me for extra chapters." It was only then that Feng Tianyu suddenly came back to his senses. "Oh, yes, that bastard Nan Xian. He ran away after being bullied by my daughter and has even gotten her pregnant. Nobody knows where he has run off to, but when he comes back, I'm going to break his legs and make him stay with Qing'er forever." A moment ago, Feng Tianyu had verbally claimed that Nan Xian had bullied Feng Ruqing, and now, it had turned into him being bullied by Feng Ruqing. He once wanted Nan Xian to stay away from his daughter, but now he wanted to break his leg to make him stay by Feng Ruqing's side. Without waiting for Nailin Yan to say anything else, the old master and Sui had already walked into the room. "Little Shaoqing is really pregnant." The old master was filled with joy. "My grandson is just amazing. He's so much better than his uncle." As soon as the old master finished his words, a glance filled with murderous intent turned to him. The old master's smile stiffened. Only then did he remember that Feng Tianyu was still next to him. "Feng Tianyu, Shaoqing is already pregnant anyway, so why don't we just carry on with this marriage?" "Humph," Feng Tianyu snorted, but he still respected the old master Mu and did not express his anger toward Nan Xian in front of the old master. "The four of us have just reunited 2 days ago, and I am reluctant to let my daughter get married. Let's wait for a few years more." "But Shaoqing is pregnant, no problem, it's not like I can't afford to raise a child. My daughter is pregnant, and I can still look after her. Anyway, we'll talk about it again after a few years." Chapter 1293, Boy or Girl? 6. Everyone was silent. The old master was stunned. He had just found out that it was so difficult to ask for the girl's hand in marriage. There was nothing else that he could do. His grandchild was a man. Since it was a marriage proposal, he had to treat them politely. "Feng Tianyu, what about? We discuss it again. Look, I'm about to have my great-grandson, so I have to make sure that my grandson is responsible for what he has done. I don't want him to be an asshole." Feng Tianyu frowned. "You mean, my Qing'er is also an asshole?" Feng Ruqing leaned against the soft couch, smiling at the endless argument between Feng Tianyu and the old master Mu, and did not interrupt. A warm smile appeared on her stunning face as her hand subconsciously caressed her lower abdomen. "This is great." She had never thought that there would come a day when she would be willing to bear children for someone. In the past, it was true that she had just simply slept with the state preceptor without thinking so much about it. Father, old master, Enriching straightened up. She placed her hand under her chin, supporting her jaw and smiled. An engagement is fine for now, but getting married, should I not wait for my grandfather to return? Feng Tianyu was stunned. The old master Mu seemed confused. You still have a grandfather. Well, Feng Riching nodded slightly. We have to wait for him to come back. I'm sure he will. Feng Tianyu did not say anything more. He looked at Feng Riching curiously. You know about that? Back then, he had thought that he was about to die, so he wanted eunuch Lin to give the jade pendant left behind by his father to Feng Riching. Later, after he was safe and sound, he did not want Feng Riching to know about it, after all. The place he was going to was very dangerous. I did not expect her to find out. I knew a late friend of my grandfather's, and from her, I learned about him. Feng Riching slowly stood up from the soft couch. Her long hair was waving like a drifting waterfall. Even if we agreed to get married, we still have to wait for him to come back. The old master Mu was a little hesitant. Mu Ling, that bastard, was already kicked out by him, and Qing Yin did not know when that kid would be willing to bring a wife back, me for extra chapters. He was counting on Nan Xian. However, it was understandable that Feng Riching would have to wait for her grandfather to return, and he could not stop it. All right, but I will hold the full moon wine ceremony for the child. This was the concession he could make. Feng Tianyu frowned slightly. He did not care about his usual respect for the old master Mu anymore as he said coldly, no, she has to go back to the palace to do it. I don't care. The child is my grandson's, so I have to hold the ceremony in Mu Manor. Qing'er is the princess of Luyun Kingdom, and Nan Xian has been in Luyun Kingdom with her for so many years. Why shouldn't she do it in Luyun Kingdom? Besides, you'll have to ask Nan Xian if his last name is Mu. The old master Mu was so furious. I'm an old man, and I don't know how long more will I live, so why don't you let me do it for once? What's going on? Where is your virtue of respecting the old when you fight with an old man like me? My Qing'er has a herbal dish that will let you live for another few decades without any problem. You don't need to threaten me like that. No matter what, the full moon wine ceremony for the child must be done in Luyun Kingdom. Feng Tianyu sneered. He was not willing to tolerate the old master. In the end, Si could not bear watching them bicker any longer, so she walked forward and tugged at the old master's sleeve. Old master, don't forget, we still want him to agree to allow his daughter to marry. It's not good to fight with him like this. You can curse him behind his back, just don't let him hear you. Feng Tianyu was dumbstruck by her words. Chapter 1294, Boy or Girl? 7 Sorry, he had heard everything. Feng Tianyu also knew that the old master would curse him behind his back. The old master thought that Sui was right. For his grandson's lifelong happiness, he had to control his anger. But the old master still seemed expressly dissatisfied. About the full moon wine ceremony. Actually, there's no need to fight like this. What about? We celebrated in both families. She was anxious. Nan Xian might be unhappy if these two were still disagreeable and fought so much. Well, Feng Tianyu seemed to look better now. Then, both families will hold the ceremony. But don't you ever try to monopolize my grandchild. He was angry with Nan Xian, but the child was also a descendant of his family, so he naturally would not give up his right to claim. If he allowed the old master Mu to hold the full moon wine ceremony this time, he would still have to tolerate the old master the next time, and then soon. His grandchild would be snatched away from him. No, that was not going to happen. No more compromise. Nalan Yen patted Feng Tianye's shoulder. Qing'er is still pregnant. Don't argue in front of her. Later, when Qing'er is not around, you can beat Nan Xian up as you wish. But, don't do these things in front of her anyway. It's not good for the baby as it will affect her emotions. What Yen'er said is true. I will never fight in front of Qing'er again. Feng Tianyu looked at Nalan Yen and smiled. His eyes were as warm as the spring breeze. Feng Ruqing suddenly stood behind Feng Tianyu. These people. We're going to teach her state preceptor a lesson in front of her. Father, it was me who has forced myself on the state preceptor. Feng Ruqing said firmly, so, you can't blame the state preceptor for this. Feng Tianyu's face darkened. My daughter isn't even married yet, and she is already so protective of that brat Nan Xian. When she marries him, will she no longer treat me as her father in her heart? Feng Tianyu's heart was filled with hatred, but he did not dare to show it on his face. Your mother was just joking, how could I do such a thing? That's impossible. Well, I will not let my daughter to see me lecturing Nan Xian. Really? Feng Ruqing looked suspiciously at Feng Tianyu. If Feng Tianyu wanted to teach Nan Xian a lesson, Nan Xian would definitely accept it. Me for extra chapters. Therefore, she had to nip this matter in the bud. Only she could bully her state preceptor. Feng Tianyu immediately assured her. Of course, it's true. I can swear to the heavens that if go against my own words, Nan Xian will fall into the cesspool. He wanted to see what else Nan Xian could do. Using his appearance to hook up with his precious daughter. Feng Ruqing was speechless. She somehow sympathized with the state preceptor. See, Nan Xian hasn't come back, has he? Feng Ruqing turned to look at Sui. Sui nodded. Not yet. All right. You send someone to stop him outside Tianshan Manor. Tell him not to come back yet, hide for a while because my father wants to beat him up. Well, Sui was calm. It's fine, he'll get beaten up sooner or later. He can bear it. Feng Ruqing was speechless again. Is she really his mother? I'm sleepy. Feng Ruqing felt the sleepiness coming back again. She was tired and did not want to interfere with this matter anymore. She lazily stretched her waist. You all can go back to your place first, don't disturb my rest. By the way, get the kitchen roast a whole cow for me again, I'm hungry. One Nalan Yen was stunned. She remembered the old butler's words again as she looked at Feng Ruqing, somewhat confused. Qing'er, are you all right? When I was pregnant, and the amount of food that I eat increased dramatically, but it was not as much as Feng Ruqing's appetite. Chapter 1295, Boy or Girl? 8. If it continued in this way, would Feng Ruqing be fine? Si frowned as her gaze fell on Feng Ruqing's lower abdomen. I'm not sure. Feng Ruqing lowered her eyes to her abdomen. Maybe the child loves to eat. I always feel like the food I eat is gone so quickly, then I'll be hungry again. Nalan Yen subconsciously followed Feng Ruqing's gaze as she looked at her abdomen too. What kind of monster was growing inside her daughter's belly? Was that why her daughter ate so well? But no matter what. It was her daughter's child, her grandchild, and she could accept whatever monster it was. Let's go, don't disturb Qing'er's rest. Sui smiled stunningly. Perhaps it was because she was about to become a grandmother that she felt extremely happy, and the smile on her lips could not be wiped off. These people did not bother Feng Ruqing anymore and even closed the door after walking out of the room. The moment the door closed, 2 flashes of light appeared, and then she saw little Qing Han and Fu Qin in front of her. Little Ching Han's mouth was filled with spirit herbs, and her large eyes were bright and so starry, cute and innocent. She had just wanted to pounce on Feng Ruching, but Fu Qin quickly blocked her. Fu Qin pulled little Ching Han's clothes and said helplessly, "Ching Han, mother is pregnant. You can't be like before. You will hurt the child." Oh, little Ching Han stopped. She took another spirit ginseng out of nowhere and bit it like a little rabbit. "Mother, do you really have a little sister? Why does she eat more than me?" Feng Ruching raised her hand and pulled little Ching Han into her arms. "How do you know it's a little sister?" "I don't know, but I always thought it would be a little sister. Maybe because I like a little sister more. Mother, I will work hard to eat the spirit herbs. The more I eat, the stronger I will be, and then I will be able to protect my little sister." Little Ching Han's voice was so soft that it made Feng Ruching's heart melt. "Good. Mother, I'll raise the little sister for you, all right? I can protect her, and I can take her out to play." Feng Ruching pinched little Ching Han's small nose and gently said, "Well, you're not allowed to take her to set fires or eat people." Little Ching Han was a bit disappointed and left her mouth open. "All right." Feng Ruching frowned as she saw little Ching Han's expression. "Me for extra chapters. This girl. Was she really planning to take her child out to kill and burn? It seemed so. She had to watch little Ching Han more. She must correct Ching Han's habit of eating people as she wished. What if she got a stomachache?" At a glance, Fu Qin could see what was on Feng Ruching's mind. "I will keep an eye on them for you." Compared to little Ching Han, Feng Ruching was a lot more at ease with Fu Qin. She responded, "Good, I'll leave these two children to you from now on." At this moment, Feng Ruching did not expect that a few years from now, she would definitely regret the decision that she had made today. Even though Fu Qin was matured, he had always loved Ching Han deeply. And when it came to his future little sister, he was even more indulgent. Letting him watch over these two. Hee. It was weird if he could manage that. "Fu Qin, Ching Han, you guys go and check when Nan Xian will be back." Feng Ruching sighed. They had just been apart for more than a few days, but she was already starting to miss him again. Fangzhou mainland had been destroyed, so Nan Xian should be back soon. "All right." Fu Qin took Ching Han's small hand and smiled. "Ching Han, let's go and see if father is back." Chapter 1296. Someone from the Divine Herbs sect came. Nan Xian had not returned yet, but the Mu family had welcomed a group of uninvited guests. In Mu Manor's living room, the old Master Mu was sitting upright. He held a cup of tea in his hand, gently sipping it before he carefully placed the cup on the table and looked at the visitors expressionlessly. "Even if your Divine Herbs sect sent people here, the one you should be looking for is Gu Shi. He is the chief of Tianshan Manor. Why did you come to Mu Manor?" Two young men in white robes were sitting in front of the old Master Mu. A shallow smile appeared on their lips as they slowly stood up. "Some people have been sent to Gu Manor. The gathering of the three great forces will be held after a few days, and at that time, I hope the Mu family can attend that gathering. This is an order from our Manor Lady." 1-inch Manor Lady. The old Master Mu frowned abruptly and sneered. "I did hear that the Divine Herbs sect only has a Manor Master. Your so-called Manor Lady. Could it be that your master has an illegitimate daughter out there?" The old Master Mu's words were extremely insulting, causing the two young men's faces to darken as they stared at him somewhat gloomily. "Master Mu, don't speak too much, our Manor Lady. I'm sure you know her. She is the Qin family's lady, Qin Feier, who once has been bullied by your Mu family. Fortunately, our Manor Master took her in, so she has survived." The old Master Moose sneered. Oh, so your master illegitimate daughter is Qin Feier. TSK, no wonder Qin Li never treated her as his daughter and was even willing to give her to someone else. It turns out that she's not even Qin Li's own daughter. If Qin Li or the master of the Divine Herbs sect were present, they would definitely be vomiting blood and faint from anger on the spot from hearing this. The two young men were already so angry as they stared at the old Master Mu furiously. Our manor master has also mentioned the woman who has insulted the manor lady. Oh, I believe she is called Feng Ruching. Make sure she comes and participates in this gathering as well. The Divine Herbs sect's man took out the invitation and slammed it on the table. This time, not only the Divine Herbs sect and Deity's Gate will be there, but also some other forces are included in the invitation list. So I'm sure your Mu family will not be afraid to come to this gathering. Farewell. The young man looked at the old Master Mu coldly before he turned and left. As he left, he just happened to run into Feng Ruching. Me for extra chapters. The young woman's beautiful face made the young man stop for a while, but he still left without lifting his head. Old Master, Feng Ruching slowly walked in toward the old Master Mu. What is the Divine Herbs sect for? Master Mu jutted his chin at the invitation that had been thrown on the table. Coming to give a letter of war. By the way, Qin Feier turns out to be the illegitimate daughter of the Divine Herbs sect's master. Is that old man trying to avenge her? Feng Ruching was startled. Qin Feier is his illegitimate daughter. Is that true? But the old Master Mu did not seem like someone who would lie. Could it be true? Feng Ruching thoughtfully picked up the invitation. If they don't come to me, it'll still go to them. Old Master, well, accept this invitation, the Divine Herbs sect. In a quiet, seemingly fairyland-like courtyard. A young girl in a light blue dress looked graceful and soft as her feet landed in a lake of clear water, moving around her feet, crispy and itchy. Until now. As if she was still in a dream, Qin Feier still could not believe that she had abruptly changed from the eldest daughter of the Qin family of Tianshan Manor to the adopted daughter of the Divine Herbs sect's master.